Hello out there, and taking a quick look today at the newly released Spyderco Kapara. And I know for a lot of Spyderco fans, this model is one that they were looking forward to for a long time. Since it was first announced at the beginning of the year, a lot of people had this one in their sights. This was the Spyderco that some people have been waiting for. And for some reason with me, it just was never on my radar. You know, I remember looking at it and thinking it was a good looking knife, but it was never on my list. It was never one that I thought I was going to pick up. And this knife, it's not mine. This is a sort of one that's just passing through my hands. I'm serving as a middleman, getting it to its owner, and just have the opportunity to check it out real quickly. And I'm glad I get to, because if for no other reason, just to see the quality of the build and the craftsmanship, because it is certainly a step above the last Spyderco that I looked at, which was the carbon fiber Delica. So we'll talk about that in just a minute, but yeah, getting back to the model, every time, people were talking about the Spydercos that still had to come out before the end of the year, people would bring up the Kapara and I'd be like, oh yeah, that one is coming. And it's funny that it just never really, got on my list or drew too much of my attention, because as far as the design goes, it's beautiful. It's a great looking knife. Really, really nice lines, sort of right in, right in my ballpark, up my alley with the kinds of things that I'm into. And just for whatever reason, like a knife like the Smock, and then some of the other ones just had my attention a whole lot more. And, unfortunately, when you have $175, $180 price points on all these knives, I can't get all of them. And so this was one that I just sort of wrote off. And I'm happy to have been able to, like I said, just checked it out for a quick minute. And so let's just go through some of the aspects of the knife and some of the things that are noteworthy. First of all, I think one of the ways that I was able to rationalize not picking it up myself was the size. It's not a big knife, but it is a little bit long, at least for my taste. It's sort of on the larger side of my taste, right around 3.5 inches of cutting edge, and then overall pretty close to 8.5 inches total. So it is a relatively long knife. You take it next to the paramilitary 2, though, you can see they're about the same size, nothing all that different, so it's not some massive knife. And it is very small in a number of dimensions. The height of the knife up and down here is very, very small, so the handle isn't large by any stretch of the imagination. Beautiful blade shape, full flat grind with this S30V. Really, really just digging the blade shape. It does have that blade shape that I talk about pretty regularly as being just one of my favorites. I don't know exactly what you call it, but that plunge that comes to almost a spear, and just that little bit of belly always seems to work out really well for me. So as far as EDC goes for me, it would be pretty darn good, I'm sure. The big thing here, as far as quality goes, is the carbon fiber. And in that Delica video a week or so ago, I talked about how the carbon fiber just wasn't good. It wasn't executed well. It was too polished, and this is more of a matte finish. Even though it's smooth, this is exactly what I would have hoped that they had done on the Delica. It looks good. It's not high traction at all, but it's not slick. So yeah, very happy with what they did here. And just the fit and finish here is what you would expect. That Delica $175 knife, this one I think is $185. It's expensive. It's very expensive. But here at least you can actually sort of see the value, and it makes a lot more sense. Now, that said, I know a lot of people who did get the Delica, the carbon fiber one, they didn't have any of the issues that I did. Mine just seemed to be like an aberration. But that said, just the material that they're working with here on this Kapara is superior without a doubt. One thing that I do really like is the touch of red here on the back spacer. I think the original custom by Alistair Phillips was called the Redback, so sort of harkens back to that, which is nice. When it comes to price, 185, I think we're going to be right around there. There's going to be a lot of people who are just going to rule this knife out because it's S30V at that price. And, I get that, and that's a very open-ended discussion. For me, you probably know where I stand. I'm willing to pay that if the rest of the knife is executed really well. And yeah, I think it is. It's executed very nicely. I think S30V is perfectly appropriate. It's still a great steel, and while it's not the trendy steel, the it steel, the super duper premium steel, it's still very, very good. Ergonomically, if I had one qualm with this knife, it would be that there isn't any jimping. There is a nice, very subtle forward choil though, and the knife is wonderfully comfortable in hand. It's just a very comfortable knife. One thing that is pretty neat about it is that this thumb ramp sort of gives you the ability to have a comfortable grip in a number of different spots as you move on back. And even though there's no jimping, the knife is comfortable in all these different locations, and nothing sharp at all as you transition, nothing. So I don't think there's going to be any thumb hot spots at all. Compression lock, this is, from my understanding, I don't think it's on bearings. I think it's just washers. Actually, it might be bearings there. But it's pretty smooth. I'm not breaking it in, so I won't really be able to tell you, but I think that it'll break in really nicely. Like I said, not my knife, so I'm sort of just opening and closing it only a few times. But you can see the centering is pretty much on point. Little bit of skeletonizing on the scales to make it relatively lightweight. Actually, let's pull the scale out and just weigh it real quickly and see what we've got here. 3 1/3 ounces, 3.32. Yeah, it's pretty darn light for a knife of its size. Let's do a couple more size comparisons actually, since didn't really complete that thought earlier. Here's that Paramilitary 2 again. Always like to do the mini Griptilian. That's a really good comparison. Really gives you an idea of just how much longer the knife is. So maybe if you, want something like a Griptilian, let's say. I mean, geez, these knives actually look pretty darn similar. If you want something like a Griptilian, but with some more high-end materials, sort of have it right there. One other Spyderco that it just sort of reminded me of off the bat, and it's not that similar, but you can see a little bit of similarity in the shape, is the Centofonte 3. And what's one more? Do I have one more? Well, sure. Here's a Pilar. A lot smaller, but yeah. Okay. Actually, just keep going with size comparisons. Natrix. All right. But getting back to this guy, try to give you just a little bit of a closer look, some of the details. Rotate the knife around. We have the wire clip, which is a good choice. You do have this kind of milling out in order to reverse it, which a little bit of an eyesore maybe. The hardware and the pivot, it's like a gray colored pivot, and then the rest of the hardware is polished, so yeah. But it is a really good looking knife. And I do think overall, the way that I finished that Delica video, man, the way that I finished it was something to the effect of, I said, I expect more from Spyderco, and I look forward to them meeting that expectation in the future. I think that's almost exactly what I said when I just had that fail of a Delica. And this knife right here is exactly what you would expect. And I'm never going to say, man, I'm so glad I paid $180, $185 for a knife. Obviously, just about everybody would like to be able to get this knife for less money, but I think that you can see the value in it, you know, when you do comparisons to other Spydercos, especially like that Delica and some of the other price points that they have. I mean, I think that this knife, just the build quality and what you get, it makes a little bit more sense. So yeah, not really going to be able to do a full review. I haven't decided if just having this knife in my hand is going to get it onto my long-term list. Maybe you will see this knife on the channel again in the future. But yeah, for now, just happy to have gotten to handle it and check it out. All right. So any other questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, guys, let me know down below. If you had, let's ask this question. If you had 150 plus to spend on a Spyderco, any Spyderco between 150 and 200 bucks, what would be the one that you would get? That's a good question. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'll talk with you soon. Have a good one.